Just got back from TRE, wrapped up Thursday evening, flew back yesterday afternoon. It is Saturday afternoon and I am out on the trails testing already. So you're sick of watching product previews yet? Little mini interviews? Are you perhaps ready to see some of these shoes in action? Well, here you have it. I did come home with a handful of shoes to try out right away. Two of the most interesting ones for me, at least personally, and as far as getting out on the trails, I couldn't decide which one I would try out today. So let's see, maybe we'll do both. The first brand is Kiprun, French brand making their big entry into the market this year in 2026. Here on my foot, I've got the Kipsummit Max. The second shoe, which I'll switch into after this segment, is the Prodigio 2 from La Sportiva. The Prodigio line has been a big hit for them, and they're bringing an update to the first model in that triumvirate, the quote-unquote regular Prodigio. I was able to try that model on at the show, but haven't been able to put any running miles in it yet. Stay tuned to the second part of this video. I definitely noticed some fit and feel changes with that regular Prodigio model there. Whew, there we go. Had some rain yesterday. Gonna have to be careful with my trail picks. But the Prodigio 2 did feel a little bit different underfoot compared to the first model. I think it does move closer to the Pro and the Max, but I'll feel it out a little bit more later on today. Coming back to the Kipsummit Max here, the major thing is the midsole. Fast Tech Plus ATPU midsole. This is going to be a buzz foam, if you will. Going to hear a lot about that coming out of this year's running event and going forward in the future across both trail and road shoes. Stack guy here is listed at 39.33. I will take my measurements for future reviews. I've got a US 10, which comes in at 10.0 ounces, 284 grams. I'm gonna have to dig a little bit deeper into the properties of ATPU foam. Going forward in 2026, I do have a top secret test model that I am testing with ATPU, and I will say that it feels incredible compared to a previous supercritical EVA model that I had tested the same shoe in. Just has an incredible level of rebound, and I believe resilience durability is enhanced over other flavors of TPU. Also, there is a weight reduction that comes along with that foam. I'm telling you, this is a super solid shoe underfoot. It is a lot under there, even the upper, very high quality, durable materials. They did not skimp. It doesn't seem like on weight in the upper. A lot of parts of it that are just seem pretty beefy to me, pretty durable. Vibram Mega Grip underfoot, 4 mil lugs, and for it to come in at an even 10 ounces, it's got to come down to that ATPU foam. Gonna hike up this little hill here, a little tired out from being on feet all week at TRE and all the travel and all that, so I'll take it easy today. But the feel underfoot in this Kipsummit Max, it's just incredible. Like I said, for it to pack this much shoe in at 10 ounces is quite a feat. It feels, when you're walking around in it, super soft, but not that squishy softness where you sink in and you get the feeling that it's not really gonna come back to you, as in it's gonna pack out or whatever. We'll see over time. Again, first 30 minutes in the shoe right here, it has a combination of softness and responsiveness that you don't typically see. Normally you'll have that softness, but it'll be more of a supercritical, lighter EVA style, which won't necessarily give you the same level of bounce and response. This foam here, ATPU, again, seems to combine the best of both worlds there. You have that really soft feel, the lightweight of a kind of traditional EVA, but you get the bounce quality, the response properties of a TPU without the added weight. I gotta tell you, I'm cruising along pretty good here. I'm clipping along a little downhill here, but I was running around 745 per mile pace there. Heart rate's a little high again. Fatigue built up from the event, but I'm feeling pretty smooth on the run, and the objective pace is quite good, so there must be some good action going on with this shoe here. Can do a quick up and down before I head back and switch shoes. There's no plate in the mix here. 39 at the heel, 6 mil drop, plenty of solid protection. Again, the TPU seems to hold its form, hold its shape better than, say, an EVA, which might not be as resilient, may squish down a little bit more with these rocks underfoot. You also have that full coverage rubber underfoot, deep 4 mil lugs. So running through this kind of stuff and not feeling much of it. A little bit of kind of pressure, no sharpness though, which is very good. When I turn back around here, I'm gonna get my first check on stability. I think the fit is pretty good. I think it's gonna be good enough to handle that little part right there. I'll talk about the fit as I'm heading back a smoother part of the descent there. But the TPU, bouncy, resilient, soft, does have a wide platform underfoot, so curious to see how stable it feels. Again, fit is going to play a big factor in that, which I will talk about in a moment. How are you liking this run and gun style first look so far? I know you want to see some action, okay? These preview videos, you know, talking heads, a lot of it over and over. You want to see these shoes on the trail, right? A little tricky coming down there. Very soft, very bouncy, steep and loose there. I have a feeling I might need to tighten up lace tension a bit along the way somewhere. First run in it, I expect some stretching out in this upper. I got to talk to a lot of the Kiprun guys at TRE, and they seem to have higher volume feet than me. A couple of them are like, oh, you've got a narrow foot there based on how I laced it up and how it looked on my foot. I don't think I have a narrow foot. I think it's probably medium, but definitely not a high volume foot. I could see the lace throat on some of their shoes was really kind of opened up the way they were wearing it. Again, a lot of those guys are running or kind of hanging around casually. That's a little bit different than how you would lace your shoes when you're out on the trail, especially in rocky grades like that. But I'd say it's an interesting kind of fit. It has kind of a speed goat feel and vibe to it, but with a wider forefoot space. Definitely more comfortable than this. I really had trouble working with speed goat shoes pretty much across the board. And this one has a similarity in that it seems to strap the foot down over the top of the shoe. Again, you have that wide lace throat, so it is accommodating as well for high volume feet. But compared to speed goats that I have had problems with, it is wider at the forefoot, and I don't get any of that pinching or squeezing at the ball of my foot, which would even make my foot go numb at times. Really great here. I just probably have to dial in the lacing or just see what works best as I continue my testing. I have noticed a few comments about the sizing of Kiprun shoes as a brand. This is my first Kiprun shoe, so I can't speak to that, but I will say US 10 here, typically my upper range, closer to my ultra sizing. Usually the sizer I typically want to have at least 3/4, potentially full thumbs width at a US 10, and that feels accurate to me. This shoe feels just right to me. At a US 10, I've got about 3/4 thumbs width. So I would say, for me, if you're looking at this shoe for longer ultra distances, I would go up a half size so you can have that amount of toe space. But if you perhaps have a narrower foot or maybe you're just training in it, not necessarily a racing shoe, you may go true to size, which would be 9.5 for me, and probably have a more dialed in fit, but I'd be worried about being a little cramped up front. No issues at all here, and this 10 is just perfect. I do also have the Kipsummit Race, which is their carbon fiber plated, certainly a race model companion to this Kipsummit Max here. That one I also have in a 10. They did not have half sizes at the show. It feels more spacious for sure, and I've heard that, I think, from one of the reps or maybe one of their other Kiprun guys out there. It seemed to fit more spacious. I do have the 10 as I test that one, and certainly just walking around in it, it feels like there's a lot more volume and certainly a lot more length compared to this 10 here. Need to do more testing, but I would have it in your mind right away to potentially go a half size smaller in the race compared to this Max model at whatever sizing or however you size your shoes. The upper of this Max model here certainly leans into comfort. There's some soft, or I would say a lot of soft materials along the interior. I don't notice any rigid or hard points anywhere around my foot. It just feels super great, super comfortable. Again, coming back to the weight and, in extension, the foam, the amount of soft and kind of cushy materials in this shoe, just looking at it, not holding it or feeling it in hand, looking at the upper, looking at the padding on the inside, I would expect the shoe to be quite heavier, but it comes in at 10 ounces, which is really, really great. I'm kind of twisting around here and there in the shoe, and something I find that if I can get a solid foot placement, a solid landing, I feel very secure in the shoe. Maybe twist and turny if I get really on the edges and lean, maybe it doesn't feel quite as secure again. Might have to, over time, tension down the upper a little bit more, but feels really well dialed in if I can get a nice solid landing. TPU just bounces off the ground without really giving it time to kind of loosen up or have my foot kind of slide around in the upper. Heading on back now. Smooth dirt here, a little soft. Do a quick close-up when I get back to the van. Just wanted to point out, I am cruising along here at what feels like a quite comfortable 720, 705 pace here on a little downgrade right now. It just feels really good. Certainly not after a week of TRE in or having the feeling of being in the shape to run smoothly at this kind of pace, but shoe is kind of, I would say, helping me along. Feels great on the run. So quick look at the upper. Once I get back, then I'll get going right away in the Prodigio 2. I will be continuing my testing in this model, Prodigio 2 of course, and also Kipsummit Race. Want to pile a lot of miles into these shoes before the full review, and of course comparison against those Kipsummit models. Kiprun's athlete Blondine, she won, I believe, Diagonal de Fou. Am I saying that correctly? Kiprun, check me on my pronunciation there. I was told she started the race in the Kipsummit Race, I think 70 miles or so, or Ks, maybe mixed up. But then for comfort, she swapped into this Kipsummit Max for the final miles. So both of these shoes are on foot at Diagonal de Fou. Okay, pretty well tested, I'd say. But look forward to my testing also at Humble Running. All right, quick look at the Kiprun upper here. Well, first let's see this ATPU midsole. That feels, just the feel of it is different. It's very soft and it has a resilience to it. It's just, it feels great when you press into it. I don't know. Anyway, looking at the upper, mainly the materials themselves, take a look around the heel collar there. Look at the amount of padding in there. Very well padded, very soft, very comfortable throughout. It's just really a comfortable shoe. And again, look at the size of it. A lot of dirt on there, but Vibram rubber. You have a little bit of gap in the middle, but mainly full coverage, deep 4mm lugs. There's no plate in the mix, so you could see the adaptability of this shoe underfoot. But again, I was running through some rocky stuff and I didn't notice too much of an issue as far as protection. The ATPU midsole does seem to kind of eat up a lot of that along with the rubber itself, so I didn't really notice any issues of sharps getting through to my foot. Lace throat is nice and wide. It's kind of interesting. I think it kind of widens out near the top, which is something you don't typically see. It's narrower down here and then it kind of opens up over here. The tongue is very well padded. It wraps pretty far down the foot. You could see it's going down along the sides. You have a gusseted tongue along with an interior booty lining, so you have this outer mesh here which is quite lightweight, but then you have the front of the toe box kind of connected to that gusset there. You can see how far this tongue wraps around the sides of the foot, so it really overlaps with these kind of edges of the upper eyelets here to really pull the foot down over the top of the foot onto the shoe. Something I felt in, I was talking about in comparison to the Speed Goat. The upper is wrapping the foot down and holding it onto the shoe as opposed to, say, squeezing it from the sides. And the width I really like, quite wide over here compared to, say, a Speed Goat, which I think is narrower and kind of tapers a little bit more. Now, they do have a Speed Goat 7 coming out, which I haven't seen, so I don't want to speak against the Speed Goat too much, but that has been my experience in the past, and just the feel and look of the shoe, it almost looks like, you know, an upgraded, more advanced Speed Goat. We'll see what Hoka comes out with version 7 anyway, but Kipsummit Max, look out for more to come from Humble Running on this one. All right, here we go. First steps in the new Prodigio 2 from La Sportiva. We went from new and exciting to updated and exciting. This is not a comparison, by the way, between the Kipsummit Max and the Prodigio 2. Just two shoes I'm excited and can't wait to get the test miles in, so why not get going right away. The big and noticeable update with this quote-unquote regular Prodigio here is the wider fit for sure. The regular Prodigio has kind of a standard toe box. It was a big improvement when it first came out for La Sportiva compared to their more mountain-oriented, more rigid, firmer, certainly narrower in the toe box models, but it was still kind of a traditional fit. Okay, I found across the forefoot, but still a little tapered around the toes. This version 2 right here noticeably widens out the forefoot especially, and even up front at the front of the toes rounds out more gradually. Not as much of a tapered shape really at the front of the toe box. You've got 34 at the heel, 28 mil under the forefoot for a 6 mil drop. This one features La Sportiva's X-Flow midsole foam. It is a super critical EVA, but it has been formulated to be a little bit softer than the original version 1. I've probably most recently put miles in the Prodigio Pro out at Mammoth Trail Fest, and this one certainly has a firmer feel to it compared to that one. That model is a Nitro TPU midsole, whereas this one again is Nitro EVA. The upper design is more closely aligned with the Max though. You don't have that ankle gaiter integrated here. More traditional, but with a bit of a lightweight tongue design similar to the Max. My size US 10 here comes in at 10.7 ounces, 302 grams. That is traditional sizing for La Sportiva, i.e. running a little bit small. One of the only brands I wear US 10.5 in across the board, even potentially 11 in the Max. Sticking with the sizing here, compared to V1, I'd say it is equivalent in length in my US 10.5, but you definitely have noticeably more width across the forefoot and in the toe box, generally speaking. Compared to the Pro model, I would say length is, again, similar in the US 10.5, but I think you even get more width in this one. I think it's about the same at the forefoot, but at the front of the toe box, certainly more roomy, at least in my feeling out of the first run here, at the front of the toe box. Compared to the Max, that was the model I had the probably most issues with. I'd say the shape of the toe box is the same. So this one is not wider than the Max, wider compared to version 1 in the Pro, as I mentioned, but shape very similar to the Max, but I think the Max just has a more aggressive rocker, which just with that roll kind of led me to feel a little bit more squeezed at the front of the toe box. I don't feel that here in this one, so I'd say I'm definitely more comfortable straight out of the gate in my normal La Sportiva US 10.5 here. So just a quick summary on fit and sizing across this model, the Prodigio 2, and the 3 current Prodigio models. Lengthwise, I find them all the same in the US 10.5. Shape of the toe box, I would say most closely resembles the Prodigio Max, especially up front by the toes. 4-foot width, similar to both the Max and the Pro. Overall, I thought version 1 was comfortable, but does feel a little bit snugger, a little narrower than this version 2 here. The taper, I would say, more evident in version 1 and the Pro model. Foot security lockdown feels very good so far. About to hit that same up and down that I did earlier, get a better feel, but I feel very well held around the middle of the foot, and I think it feels more comfortable certainly than version 1. Definitely feels more agile with the wider toe box up front. I feel like I have better feel under the ball of the foot in the toes. Initial feelings on the ride here, the Nitro EVA, they say it's a bit softer, but it has a firmer feel. Maybe it's probably bad that I was riding in that Kipsummit Max, running in that Kipsummit Max earlier. That one feeling just super soft underfoot. Anything is going to feel firmer right after running in that one, but definitely a firmer feel here, more ground feel. It is, I would say, somewhat reminiscent of a shoe which I really like, the Topo Pursuit 2. They do have version 3 coming out this year in the spring, but a similar level of very good foothold in that one and really nice, comfortable wide. This toe box is not as wide as the Pursuit 2, but similar in feel. Of course, 6mm drop here is noticeable compared to the Pursuit 2, but just the shoe overall kind of has that similar kind of protective, well-held, agile, kind of mountain rugged feel to it. Close to the ground, mountain rugged feel. The outsole is La Sportiva's friction compound. Get a good feel for it on this up and down here. You've got red, they're more durable compound under the heel, and white up front. So mix there. White is a little bit softer, a little bit tackier, better grip and traction under the forefoot. That is what you'll see under the entire outsole in the Pro model. There's definitely no plate in the mix here. I'm gonna have to double check to see if there's any type of thin film. Got a closer look at the Prodigio Pro film, and it's really just like a paper thin layer above the outsole. I'm not quite sure if there's something similar in here, but good flexibility underfoot, climbing. I'm not really feeling anything getting through. Seems to be quite protective. Full coverage outsole, good traction obviously, and it's a firmer EVA, softer than the previous X-Flow formulation, but firmer compared to the Pro and also the Max with its higher stack. All right, let's head back down. Certainly feeling a little more comfortable than the Kiprun shoe earlier, closer to the ground, firmer here. That's pretty obvious. Feels quite protective too. Firm rubber underfoot, firm midsole. So now you've got 4 models in La Sportiva's Prodigio line, if you count V1. Well, it's still available before this one hits the shelves. Where does this one fit into the mix? I would compare it, I would say, most closely to the Prodigio Pro in terms of those that have had perhaps fit issues with the Pro, maybe at the front of the toe box, maybe issues around the heel collar, having it be a bit firm, or issues with even the tongue, that kind of clamshell design, maybe putting too much pressure on the top of the foot. There's going to be something of an option compared to that shoe, but you don't have quite the same performant midsole. Perhaps if you are looking for a firmer feel, maybe you don't like the bounciness of that TPU, maybe it's not protective enough underfoot for you, or perhaps you're leaning more into rugged training miles and you just like the firmer feel of the supercritical Nitro EVA here. That would be probably the alternative, going with the Prodigio 2. Or perhaps you really like the wider toe box of the Max and maybe didn't have such a tight squeeze as I had in the same US 10.5 sizing. Maybe that rocker didn't affect you as much. Maybe if you like the toe shape of that Max model, but maybe didn't want as much of the weight, maybe you could deal with a little bit less underfoot. That would be the alternative here to that higher stack Max model. If you did like the regular Prodigio version 1, I feel like this is quite a different shoe. The wider fit gives it a different feel underfoot. At least in my first test run here, it feels more adaptable on the ground. Version 1, it was great that it kind of established La Sportiva as, you know, being player in the trail running game and not just being these super technical, kind of rugged, burly mountain type shoes. It was good in that regard, but it felt like more of a straight ahead kind of running shoe to me, whereas this one feels like a really a more adaptable mountain running shoe. Last thing of note, maybe, I don't know, maybe some of you were kind of waiting for this. Version 1 Prodigio models obviously had issues around the heel collar. That's completely resolved here. Not an issue at all. I haven't even thought about it. It's probably why I haven't even mentioned it until now, but no worries. Anything, issues you had with version 1, don't even worry about it here with version 2. So before I get back and do a final close-up here on this one, just want to mention that the running event was awesome event. I went there with the intention of making connections, talking to people, and you know, it's a paradise for shoe geeks like myself, talking shoes, talking technology, features, everything. Really an amazing event, but I feel better out here on the trails. I'm happy to be out of that bubble. If you're interested in, you know, the minutia of all the preview videos, there's plenty of them out there. I really probably am not intentionally focusing on that. I'm about the running. I'm about being out here on the trail, so I hope you appreciate that. I'll probably do like maybe one roundup video where I'll just kind of talk about what I saw and maybe what I'll have upcoming in the future, but I like being out on trails. I like running. I hope you like seeing the shoes and the testing in action. So let me head back and do a little final close-up here. I might have forgotten to flex the Kipsummit Max. I don't remember, but here you go. Big stack, quite flexible. That foam in the outsole there really flexes a lot. This is a very interesting shoe. Okay, moving on to Prodigio Pro 2. Let's look at the toe box first of all. Quite a difference from version 1. Again, I find the width similar to the Pro and the Max, but I think the Pro also tapers a little bit up here. Some people may find that a little uncomfortable. I think it has more of a rocker in the Pro, certainly in the Max. So the Max, I find, has the same kind of shape here, but I think with that big rocker, I feel like it squeezes my toes as the shoe flexes at the very front. So while the shape is the same with the Max, that one felt a little more squeezy to me. This one feels totally comfortable. My forefoot and my toes and everything felt perfect in this one. Quick look along the inside here. You have a similar interior lining here attached to the gusset as the Kiprun shoe, but also the Prodigio Pro. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember about version 1. The tongue is, of course, very similar in design to the Max. I believe, now that I think about it, version 1 too had a similar tongue. It didn't have a really big padded tongue, but very traditional, well padded heel cup here. I think a lot of brands they went to go to kind of some advanced designs, and then they find it doesn't really work out, and then they just go to something nice and soft and cushy, which works, and is the case here. I believe it seems to be a lot lower cut. Certainly those early models of version 1 before they had a little bit of an inline change, but again, no issues at all around the collar, anywhere around here, just perfect for me. There we go, we got the red back here, friction white up front, tackier, a little softer, gonna wear a little easier, more harder wearing, less tacky rubber in the rear, but you can see the directional nature for braking and gripping over here. La Sportiva outsoles, they know what they're doing. Flex, quite a bit stiff. It's not nearly as flexible as the Pro model. I'd have to get the version 1 in hand for a comparison in that regard, but it's a stiffer kind of shoe certainly than the Pro. It might be closer to the Max, but the Max of course has a higher stack, so you're going to have a more firmer, protective, stiffer ride underfoot, and that might be what you're looking for in comparison to the Pro. So there you go, La Sportiva Prodigio 2. Certainly a great update if you had any issues around the upper, certainly in the heel, and if you were looking for a wider toe box, you're getting it here in the version 2. So a quick thank you to all of you out there watching my videos here at Humble Running. That's the best thing you could do, watch the videos. Of course, like and subscribe. The running event was amazing. I got to talk to a lot of the brands out there, and it was amazing that I heard from some of them, oh, they watch the videos, or they like the parts where I go back to the truck or the van and then I do my close-ups and that kind of thing. So you watching these videos, supporting the channel, increases the audience. It's been just about 1 year so far, just past 1 year before I went to the running event. So we've grown a lot, got a little bit of a recognition within some of the brands and all that stuff. And that's gonna help me test out more shoes, bring more content to you. So that's just a quick thank you from me to you as we wrap up 2025. I've got obviously a lot of good shoes in for test, and 2026 hopefully made some good connections, and we will have even more Humble Running content, a bigger year in 2026. So thank you for watching once again. If you are not liked and subscribed, if you have not liked or you are not subscribed, do so. 2026 is going to be even better.